Welcome to the Your Limitless Leadership Podcast with Jenny and Brent Widman. Here, we believe leadership isn't just about titles. It's about how you show up in every aspect of life. Whether you're leading a business, building a legacy as an entrepreneur, guiding your family, or striving to lead yourself first, this podcast is for you. Join us as we dive into real conversations about growth, decision-making, and the courage it takes to lead with purpose. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and equipped to become the limitless leader you are meant to be. This is your Limitless Leadership Podcast. Let's lead without limits. Welcome to your Limitless Leadership Podcast, and I have a very special guest today because I don't know if you ever meet those people that they have this way about them that. And I'm just going to say this. I had the chance to talk to you, and who you are as a person, who you are as a strong woman, one of the strongest women I've ever met. We had one of these, just a fantastic conversation, and just the way about you and who you are and the way you hold yourself. It's one of those things that you know right away. So she is I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit, but give a little background. She is the Chief Revenue Officer at EG Capital Holdings. And that's no small task. Like you have I don't mean this in a bad way, but the financial world is dominated by men many times. And she has built something pretty special. And I would just thank you. Let's start there for being on here because I am excited to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. And it's always interesting to me when somebody has to introduce me because there's just so much information that they actually have to get through to even like bring it down to a soundbite. So it's I grew up in male-dominated industries across the board, multiple different disciplines. Stepping into the Chief Revenue Officer role for EG Capital Holdings has been an incredible opportunity, but also just a fun thing to navigate because like ultimately what we're trying to do is bring investors to investment opportunities and bring down that barrier to entry so that we're really founder focused and also investor friendly. So it's been a really interesting, like in the alternative space, because I come from a traditional financial background where we're doing financial planning from a traditional standpoint, but entering into, the alternative space where we're doing capitalization and really focused on growing and scaling across the board and really talking to the founders of the organizations that are trying to make an impact with their company. But even before that, I come out of consulting. So I took over my family's consultancy primarily in oil and gas. And so that's been, a psychological whirlwind as well to go from being an expert to a neophyte in the financial world. So, here we are. But yes, where would you like to start?
Right. Tell me about that. So take us back, what you just said, taking over and starting like family business, what have you, oil and gas. And then obviously that's a tough world as well. And then you transition to the financial world.
Yeah.
So kind of the evolution of how you started to where you are now.
It's funny. I have to take like a giant deep breath to even like ground appropriately to tell you about my history. It's really interesting because I'm the fourth child. I'm the only like girl. I'm the only one that had an interest in taking over the family business. And my parents are powerhouses. They're analytical, like powerhouses. My mom's a PhD in communication, a neuro-linguistic expert. My dad's a biochemist by degree. And they built out their consultancy. And basically, so in oil and gas, you have something called an oil equipment manufacturer. And so in order for you to actually get to production, you need the equipment to make that happen. And so my family was like the original go-to-market strategists associated with Cameron, originally Cameron Ironworks. They also were the pioneers with communication for American Airlines, Purina, like some of like really large name brands. And they basically built out their preferred go-to-market strategies, help them build, quantifiable return on investment value propositions to go to market, and truly the preferred cultures that need to be built and uh, committed to from leadership. Anyways, long story short, I was the succession plan. My mom didn't want to travel as much as they were because as a consultant, it was true road warrior status. So literally like 80 hours in 4 days, recover on the plane, do it again the next week. And that was my life through my 20s. And it's funny because I'm literally celebrating my 39th birthday in 3 days. And it's just wild because it's been such an interesting experience to have spent a decade working alongside my dad to manhandle multiple different divisions in oil and gas and multiple different disciplines. So engineering, sales, uh, uh, what was it? Service hands, project management. It was every which way to Sunday across different disciplines. So it's drilling, surface, one subsea, valves and measurement. So it was. I had a full education on that in and of itself, and then I endearingly call it. I had this come to Jesus experience when my parents were retired. They handed over the intellectual property, and they're like the challenges. And I preach this today because when businesses liquidate or close down, especially when you're succession planning, if you haven't done a proper job of documentation or valuation or like the actual true succession planning to be able to justify the valuation of a business or intellectual property, it's just you're handing them something that doesn't exist and they have to go and recreate the value of that business. So anyways, it's been
Wow.
been an incredible journey to pivot from consulting into finance and go from building business cases to building financial plans. Sorry, that was really long-winded.
No, you said a couple things in there that it's almost like you, in a really good way, you breezed past them, but it's how did you, what you learned, because you talk about 80 hours recovering on a flight, just what you had to put into it. What did you learn from those types of things? But I guess more importantly, what did you take with you, if you
Yeah,
will?
no, I love a good work ethic, right? Like you have to. Anybody who's on a mission to impact, anybody who's on a mission to build anything of substance or value or community, you have to do the work. You can't be afraid to do the work. You can't be resentful about doing the work. So like I have no animosity towards the amount of work that I put in my 20s because I am so incredibly on the reverse side, I am grateful that I had the opportunity to go to school on so many executives, so many top talent. My job, my dad always joked that well, it was a joke, but it's not really a joke. He would give me the projects, right? So anybody who was nominated to our workshops were fast track talent. So like fast track talent, think shaping to go to executive level. And so we would do like MBA style boot camp. So we would take fast track talent, their high gain opportunities, shape it into a business case, teach them how to present and negotiate. And these guys typically went on to like be promoted into executive levels at some point.
Hmm.
And so I would be given the projects, which really just meant they needed a little bit more hand holding, like they needed a little bit more enthusiasm, they needed
Okay.
a little bit more time to understand the quantification of the value proposition, like a little bit more like getting them fired up to go to war kind of thing in front of their executives. And so like that was my job, was just literally getting people prepared to go to war. And so it was such an honor for me, but I sacrificed a lot. I'm divorced. Ultimately the year that my parents retired, and like that was the dissolution of the family business, and
Hmm.
I've shaped it into my own in some capacity. But I also got divorced, and like I had to have like my own, you know, true come to Jesus moment around like, what am I building? Why am I building it? What kind of life do I want? Who do I want to build it with? And like, how do I want to like show up every day? Right. So I think the work ethic thing is just a baseline. You have to have it. Like if you want to be exceptional at anything, like I'm the founder of the Pursuit of Excellence podcast. If you're going to show up and excel in any capacity, you got to have a work ethic and you can't be resentful about it.
So what you just talked about is you had to slow down,
Yes.
if you will, and go, what do I really want this to look like? Because I've already established and I've already done all these things.
Yeah.
How was that?
It's really interesting because, the student has to become the teacher and vice versa, the whole dichotomy, right? The chicken before the egg and the egg before the chicken, right? So when we're talking about being consultants and building go-to-market strategies and strategic plans and all the things, I really had to step back and do it for myself, but do it on a level that was meaningful as far as my overall life trajectory. So every single year, I now implement my strategic dashboard, my 12-month plan, my 5-year plan. How does that fit into everything that I'm trying to achieve? But more importantly, like it needs to focus on joy and peace and purpose, right? Like what is my function, my fit and function? Like I have to have a purpose, and like, if you're faithful in any capacity, like first and foremost, what is it that my purpose is here on this earth, and how do I define that and like strategically measure it? So I do a full strategic dashboard. I do my vision, I do my mission, I do my core values, I do my KPIs, but then I have my budgetary allocation for strategic initiatives that I'm trying to achieve, not just on the business front, but also the personal front, because like I'm going to be launching my book here in a couple months. Like I've got my podcast was a personal thing. Like I did a cookbook a couple years back. Like there's a few things like fitness wise that are just like way outside my comfort zone that I've been trying to achieve. So, it's like taking a step back to be strategic so that I can actually achieve what's meaningful to me.
But what you just said, I mean, you look at it every year
Yeah.
and you go, okay, these are the things that I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And if anybody listening to this takes away anything, that's the thing that makes you successful is I know where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I figure out how to get there. When did you start doing that, if you will? And then how has it evolved over time? Because I got to think you didn't just walk in one day and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And that's where people get lost.
It's really funny. So as I've been writing this book called Boundaries and Bullshit, it's truly, and as a female, right? I've grown up, my first sports I ever played, I was on an all guys soccer team, right? I grew up sailing. It's all guys sailing teams. I was, one of the only female skippers. Going into consulting in oil and gas, I'm like one of the only females globally that like, let alone my actual like career pathing. Like there's no women doing what I'm doing, let alone manhandling men to help them exceed, their expectations. And then pivoting into finance, and then I'm telling men what to do with their money and like giving them opportunities to grow and scale. And it's like, it's been a really interesting journey because, finding peace in all of that, because it's just like competition. It's more, like I love the adrenaline of it, but I've sacrificed a lot. I've taken a lot of hits along the way. It's funny how your emotional regulation kicks in and like deletes things in your memory.
Yeah,
Like the come to Jesus side of the things that I've experienced. So it's, as I've started writing this book, I realized that I had this pattern of every Q4 I would do this reconciliation. We're going to go into finance. I would do my annual reconciliation of just like my wins and my hits. Like what was it that I really got out of the year, and the burnout, like the cost of it, right? So I really had to, I put a lot of time and effort into previous partnerships into previous like business endeavors, and I got burned. Like they were very expensive lessons, emotionally, like physically, financially. I would never trade those experiences with anybody because they were so galvanizing into who I am now and what I'm able to impact for my clients now. Like the pillar that I get to stand on now for my clients and what's right and what's not. Like I just get excited about what we're doing.
I love that you said that. It's you're talking about these things that you had to go through to get to where you are,
Yeah.
realistically, but it not only impacted you, it helped people around you
Yeah.
at the same time. What were some of the, and I know I'm putting you on the spot
No,
here for
absolutely.
this.
I'm here for it.
What were one, two, what have you? How did it shape you? I guess, put it that way.
Okay, so when parents retired and they're like, here's your intellectual property, well, it was a down cycle oil and gas. So I had no client, I had no customer. I literally got taken off of the MSA, which is like the approved vendor list. So it dissolved my client relationship with our primary client because they got bought out by Schlumberger, who is one of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. And they do everything in house. So they removed all third party contracts, which included myself. So one, I had no business model anymore because I was basically alleviated of my technical expertise, which is my parents, and I was alleviated of my primary client. So then I had to figure out also while getting divorced. So I had to figure out, what do I actually want out of life? So then I got recruited into finance, and it was more of a come to Jesus of how do I translate this skill set into the financial world, because I was going from building business cases with quantifiable return on investment to building financial plans for quantifiable return on investment. But it was a significant um, redirect from like zero emotion in terms of consulting, because you just literally are numbers based. Like, yes, it's human based, psychology based, numbers based, but then you get into people's money and it's all
Yeah.
emotion, like all emotion. So like fundamentally I had to humble myself into being a neophyte in the financial world, knowing that I came from being an expert, shaped by experts. Like I literally taught experts how to be better at what they're expert in. And I had to literally go to school. So one of the things I'm really good at is identifying talent. So like my saving grace is I identified people that I wanted to be mentored by. So I went to school immediately on the top talent in my firm, outside of my firm, in the nation that I had access to that was doing planning. So I immediately identified people that I sought mentorship from, and I had to target and hound them to allocate time to me. But when I'm strategic around what I want to learn, like that's my number one thing when I'm coaching people, is you really need to be clear on what it is you want to get out of people. You can't ask for somebody to pick their brain. That's like almost disrespectful. So like be very clear on what you want to get out of that interaction. So that's my number one thing about that.
Have a purpose,
Yeah.
right? Go in with that
Yeah.
purpose. How did you, okay,
Yeah.
you went from being the expert, like you said,
Yeah.
to just not a whole lot. Let's
Not
call it what it
a
is.
lot.
How did we humble ourselves to do that?
Well, it's really wild because my baseline skill set's extremely transferable. So I ended up going from being expert in one discipline to rookie
Okay.
of the year and junior advisor of the year all 4 years after that, because of the transferable skill set. So it was really like identifying the opportunity and being aggressive and not afraid to do what's right, because in the financial world the challenge is like there are people that are very blacklisted, right? Like people don't trust their advisors because there's so many products. Like people get sold a product or charged a fee, and it's like they don't know why they're being charged it, and they don't understand the value proposition. And they're like, there's so many different products. So it's just like, how do I know that my advisor is giving me the right information for me to execute on the overall strategy? Like, who do I trust, right? And so, that's been a really interesting education as I've learned the industry as well as licensing and an overall like strategic objectives. So I went from being like, so depending on who you have as an advisor, one, you need to know what their licenses are, what they're actually allowed to sell you as far as products. And where they house their licenses is also another important thing to make sure that you understand. Because if they're at a big broker dealer, they're governed by FINRA, which also means that they are regulated in a different capacity. So as soon as I went, so I started out at a big broker dealer, a big mutual company, which most people who are in financial services start out as. I was actually legacy. So my uncle, who's my dad's cousin, I call him my uncle, but he's my second cousin. He was a general agent at Mass Mutual. He had retired by the time I actually came on board. So like I had no idea what Mass Mutual was. Anyways, long story short, like insurance is an incredible vehicle for protection strategies. And like there are reasons why insurance is utilized for buy sell agreements, key man insurance, retirement funds. Like there's plenty of reasons why insurance is a great play, but depending on who your advisor is and where they house their licenses, that's like literally all that they are like allowed to sell. So like that was a big thing for me is understanding strategy and execution, right? So my number one thing in everything that I do is always strategic dashboard and execution. What's the actual return on investment? Why are we charging a fee? Where is the value like held? How do we justify this fee? But ultimately, like, I understand it from like if you're going to hire an attorney, right? You're hiring their expertise. So how do we justify that? Who do I have on my team? So I've always been a team sale kind of person and building the dream team around the client. So depending on what the actual gap analysis is, I want to bring the experts in so we can charge the appropriate fee and have the appropriate deliverable.
You talked about having these transferable skills.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you're not, and maybe I'm off on this, but you're not talking about technical skills because you didn't.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is
No,
like you didn't know a lot about the financial world.
No.
What were the 2 or 3, and I can probably guess them, but what were the 2 or 3 things that transferred really well, and take the humble out of the equation for a second?
Oh, I love
that has made
this question. Thank you. You're giving me permission to brag on myself.
Yeah.
I love it. No. I'm very clinical as far as diagnostics go. So my actual like true skill set is understanding talent identification. So who am I working with? How do I analyze who I'm bringing to the table? Understanding the client, right? What is it that you're really fucking good at? Excuse my language. But also understanding where your gaps are, right? So how do I backfill to support you? Whether I get compensated on making those introductions or not. But then 2, it's gap analysis, right? So every single thing that I do has a vision, mission, core values, KPIs. Any type of engagement that I enter into with a client, I am talking about time horizon and expectations. What do you expect us to get done by when? And can we do that? If we can't do that, we're not the right team for you. So let me make those introductions. I'm happy to hand it off because I know immediately if we can do it or not.
I love the abundance because it's like I just want to do what's right for you, and if it isn't right, that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to sell people stuff that, like you said, they don't need.
No, and like I don't understand people that do that. Like it just hurts my heart when people feel the need to do that. I don't understand it. Like I like fundamentally don't understand it. Like
like we shouldn't ever need like the commission breath or what have you, right? We shouldn't ever need something so bad. And that's part of the transferable skills that from me, what I see in you is And just from knowing you for this amount of time, your mentality, your drive, the work ethic, but you couple it so well with caring up. There's very few people that have this drive that just goes, and they have this, you can be kind and be a really good human and put that together at the same time.
It's
So,
really, thank you. Like that's
yeah,
like honestly, that's like one of the best, like my most favorite compliments, like energy, and then just like the humility side of it, because it's like I've partnered with people that's not the case, and it was a very humbling experience, a very expensive, very humbling experience, because like, they talk a very big game, and it's like, wow, we are not aligned. How do I immediately get out of this? And it's very like
it's hard.
my
Yeah.
yeah. So my unfortunate like character flaw is that I think a lot of people have the best interest in mind, and it's not the case. And that is probably the one lesson that I have to continually learn, is like people are selfish, and that's very unfortunate. So you got to keep your circle small, and when you are expanding it, like ask all the questions that you don't want to ask, but ask them. Like, please, for the love of God, ask all the uncomfortable questions. I have this game. So I'm divorced. I'm still like, I've had a couple heartbreaks since the divorce. And as I continue to figure out who my Mr. Wonderful is, every time I go into an engagement, I bring this deck of cards that's called "How Deep Will You Go?" And it's just
I love it.
it's a questions game, and it's like, where's your happy place? Like, what are your non-negotiables? Like, when's the last time that you were super emotional? What sparked it? Like, all of the like come to Jesus questions. Like, I wish I'd had it when I was married, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it's
And like
communication. It's
I
really
asked
what
my
it is.
business partner these questions, because it's like we have to know each other on this level, because like I'm putting my utmost trust in you. So like what, like I need to know you inside and out so that I can sell you. you know?
Two things you touched on. It's being naive.
Hmm.
It's sometimes really okay
Yeah.
because you look for the good in people, and
Yes.
that's a really good trait, and it is. I
It,
mean,
it,
sometimes you get things, but
it's expensive, is what it is.
yeah. And then the communication, man, like those cards or whatever the questions you're asking just opens up.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want from somebody.
Yeah.
Communication solves so many things in this world. If we just,
It's
yeah,
really funny. So like the humor in that is my family, my mom's PhD in communication. We literally specialize in strategic communication.
yeah,
Strategic. We suck at communicating inside the family. like, it is hilarious, because it's just like we have all these like moral codes that everybody's supposed to know, and I'm like, y'all, we are just like, can we just like communicate like normal people? It's really funny. It's like the dichotomy associated with being an expert versus actual application in your personal life is just like very, very interesting. It's really interesting because it's the same for advisors on the financial side. One of the number
yeah.
one things that I always encourage people when you're interviewing an advisor is to ask them what they're doing personally. Do they do this for themselves personally? Like, how are they allocated personally? Do they have this product personally? Like, how have they like recommended this to their family? Like, so I always encourage people to actually interrogate their advisor in that capacity.
As you should.
Yeah.
Because if they're asking you to do something and they're
Yeah.
not doing it, it's
Exactly.
that show me, don't tell me
Yeah.
type of thing at the same time.
Yeah.
We were talking, I want to come back to this. We were
Yeah.
talking about, before we got on, just about the difference between being in a room full of dudes or
Yes.
men and a room full of women, and the difference there is there for obviously being a strong woman when you're going into a room full of women.
Yeah.
tell me about that a little bit, just the difference there, and how can, I guess,
I mean,
the
I'll
the end
take your recommendations on our coaching. Maybe your wifey needs to be on this call, but like, it's funny because I try to self-regulate and try to like consist. So I soundboard with my parents all the time. Like, thank goodness my parents are still around, and I still
you
get
have
to
people there.
like. They're almost 80, but they're still like very much present in my world. And I still utilize them as much as I can for consulting engagements and just like overall just diagnostics of have I interpreted this situation appropriately. Anyways, yeah, I made it was really interesting. So like 2 weeks ago, I was on a podcast and she's just a total badass boss babe who empowers other women. And she's asking me these questions, and I was like, you know what? I actually like my number one fear is being in a room full of boss babe women. Like
Crazy.
I have accomplished so many cool things, and
Yep.
like I am terrified to be in a room full of women. And it's obviously that's like my own personal shit I got to work through, but I grew up playing all guys sports. So I first team I was ever on was an all guys soccer team. Dad put me into sports, so I swam, but most of the dudes, most of them were all men. And then
Okay.
immediately got into sailing, which is mostly male dominated as well. So I was a female skipper in co-ed,
Hmm.
but it was just mostly men. We did have a women's division, and I did really well in that as well. I was the collegiate All-American in sailing. Anyways, so just as soon as I went into consulting, it was oil and gas, it was all men, and then finance is all men. I'm very confident, and if you're going to get all scientific, I've done all of the personality assessments and
Okay.
communication style
Yep.
assessments. So like if you did like your Myers-Briggs, my persona is like I have one of the lowest percentages of women that have this like male dominated oriented
Hmm.
persona, communication style, personality style. So I get along really well with men. I understand men. I appreciate how men do business. I appreciate how they explain things. I can communicate to them well. And the second I get into a room full of women, I'm so humbled by the um like I almost think like you guys have to like hurdle. It's like an obstacle course y'all have to go through in order to just communicate with us.
That's awesome.
It's really funny because it's like I
Different.
immediately have to shift my entire
Yeah.
persona in order to communicate with boss babe women so that I can be on the same playing field versus me being able to drive value in a room full of men where it's very logical. I can do like return on investment. We're talking about the cool shit. It's just way easier to talk to men than it is to talk to women. So I'm going to give all of the men credit for being able to communicate well with women. We are a
Isn't that
tough breed.
even what you said, as confident as you are
Oh,
in some aspects, it's like, again, you're giving women permission to go, it's okay to be human, if you
yeah,
will. Like,
yeah,
that's just part of it, that you might feel uneasy or inadequate or whatever it is at times. It's how you handle it or how you push through it
yeah.
too at the same
It's
time.
been really interesting because like I'm in rooms with like very very qualified women who are running multi-million dollar organizations and their networks are insane and they've built these incredible legacies. And then they're also supporting the communities that they're building of women that are re-entering the workforce, that are
Yeah.
reigniting their skill sets. And it's there's so many emotions associated with it that it's for me that was my mission this year is to. And I didn't even really truly acknowledge that mission until probably Q2, where I was like, I need to be in these rooms. and it was more of the calling. It was more like God's work than my own like cognitive decision of like I realized that I was being compelled to be in these rooms for a reason. And so it's been a lot, like it's identified areas for myself to soften, and which is, you know, really good for me, but also such an education around um like the I have a really strong reaction to the like feminine energy bullshit, because I'm just like, you talk to any boss babe, like, and we're all just like, no, 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 no. Like, we're not like soft flowers. We're over here
Nope.
driving business. Like, we're driving value for a reason. Like, there's nothing like soft about us, but we still want to be like, we want our man, like the whole, it's just a very interesting dichotomy that we have to
Yes.
navigate.
Yep.
And for every woman and their relationship, it's going to be different, but it's like I you know, it's been a very interesting education. I don't have the words for it yet. We should reconvene when I can fully articulate my feedback on that one.
But think about what you're saying too. You notice something that
Yeah.
maybe was a miss in what you do and how you do it.
Yeah.
And instead of shying away from it, you said, okay, I'm going to learn this and
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out what I need to do and how I need to do it. And then on the flip side, you've also realized that even in your being in a room like that or with
Yeah.
people like that, that they have that soft side as well. Like they're taking care of people.
It's really so it was I went to one event earlier this year where I was told I was like the reaction, like the consensus, like general reaction to me that I was just like overly masculine, but
Mm,
like in my energy. And I was
okay.
just like, I'm doing exactly what I do every single day, and like talking about the things that like light me up, which is like strategic dashboarding, like execution, ROI, like doing cool shit for people and being like technically savvy. And all these women are telling me that I was overly masculine in my energy, and I'm over here just, I don't understand it. And so that was my trigger to be like,
Okay.
what am I missing? Like, what is it that I need to understand that you guys are reacting to? And not that it's a negative thing, or, you know,
Not at
that
all.
I need to
Nope.
adjust anything that I'm doing. But like, you're obviously triggered by the fact that I'm very confident in what I know, and I'm experienced in what I know, and I probably know more about what you're trying to do than you do. But like, I don't understand the reaction, and you know, I'd like to understand, like, if it's a negative reaction, or if there's like how are you perceiving me? So it like, is it going to be a benefit? Is it just an is this going to expand my circle? Like, it was just more of a trigger to be like, this is something new that I need to learn. It, you know, it wasn't an, like, with men it's just so straightforward. With women it's not.
One of the things you're doing though is some people said something
Yeah,
to you or told you something or helped
yeah,
guide you or what have you. And instead of, that's not me, it was more of a seek to understand,
yes,
okay, there's something I can do to get better at who I am. And it's
yeah,
going to make me better in all facets of life
sure.
instead of just, don't tell me that type of
Yeah,
thing.
it was I felt like I was learning a new language, was the experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was fascinating.
that is exactly. But you
So
were open
I
enough
can
at
be
the
in those
same.
rooms. Yeah.
Yeah, you were open enough at the same time. And I think that's, I mean, what if people aren't hearing that? As strong as you are, as successful as you've been, the things that you've done, who you've learned from,
Yeah.
the rooms that you're in, you're still looking to get better and not taking things as they're attacking me. You're taking it as, I can get better at that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, it's
It is.
psychological cognitive disconnect of this is how I'm showing up, but this is how you're experiencing me. This is not necessarily how I want to be experienced. So how do I need to adjust? But also, do I need to adjust? Like, it's a fascinating psychological diagnostic.
It is. It's oh, the things that I hope people listen to this and go, okay, even though I'm pretty good at what I do,
Yeah.
I've become pretty successful. Maybe I'm a great leader, maybe I'm a great producer, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Don't stay stuck in my ways. Be
Yeah.
open to new things and be open to figure things out and listening to people.
My
Go ahead.
favorite tagline for this is being a student of the game, right?
Yeah.
So it's pivot and play. You are ultimately like doing yourself a disservice if you're not continually analyzing, how do I get better at this? How do I be more effective? What is it that I'm missing? How do I go back to the basics, right? So Einstein says you have to master the fundamentals before you can get creative. My dad likes to take it a step further to say, if you don't have the fundamentals, creativity turns into anarchy. So like we don't want anarchy because you just want to go crazy, right? We want to come back to the fundamentals and re-vector to make sure that we're ultimately achieving the trajectory that we're striving for. So it's the airplane analogy, right? Like if we're 10 degrees off or if we're 2 degrees off, like we're never going to hit the target. So how do we continually make sure that we're re-vectoring to make sure we're hitting the target that's intended, right?
Oh, I love that. And it's consistently pulling back and getting better and what have you.
Yeah.
So you do hit the things you're striving for.
Yeah.
I love it. So tell me, okay, how do we find you? You talked about your podcast, your book, all the stuff. Tell me about all of that.
Oh my goodness. Well, first and foremost, I'm very Googleable. There's not many Tinjas out there.
Good word.
So you can find me on most platforms at Tinja Anderson. You can find us at EG Capital. So egcapital.co, C-O, and then on Instagram at EG Capital, EG Capital Holdings, and then LinkedIn at EG Capital. I'm going to be speaking a bunch at different women events and then different family office events. So a lot of what I'm doing is going to be out there. You can find my podcast at Pursuit of Excellence podcast.com. Yeah, I'm very Googleable, so you can just Google me.
Yeah. What is leave them with this.
Yes.
When you look at who you are and what you've developed over time, and I can give you a second to,
Yeah.
what is your superpower? What do you do really, really well?
Oh my goodness.
I know.
No, it's funny because like I have to have these come to Jesus moments with myself a lot because
Yep.
I'm dealing with people. Like I'm dealing with people's fortunes and what they're doing with their businesses, what they're trying to do with their businesses. And
It's a big deal. That's emotional.
it's a big deal, like protecting what their life vision is, right? And the whole reason I started the Pursuit of Excellence podcast is because I've had some incredible people in my life. I have access to some incredible people, and I want to continue to have that platform to go to school on people. And so for me, like my superpower is identifying talent and doing proper gap analysis, like understanding where the gaps are and figuring out how we solve, like identifying the people that can solve them. So like me as a chief revenue officer, that's literally the definition of my job, is to do gap analysis and make sure we've got the team surrounding them to execute, which is like investor or founder or overall portfolio management. But I I just get excited about people that want to do cool shit, right? Like my superpower is getting people pumped to go pursue the shit that like they're born to do. And
Spot
like,
on.
I want to be on that bandwagon. Like if you're doing it, like I want to be there. Like I want that energy. I want that experience. I want to learn from you. So like a lot of people have no like they cannot appreciate that I am about to be in my 40s because of the jovial nature, the jovial energy that I bring to the table. And it's like, if you're not seeking to learn and you're not seeking to be inspired and like get energized about shit, like you're on the back end of this bandwagon. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah. Like you're on the downslope. And I just get really excited about people that are excited. Like, you're gonna go impact, cool. I want to be there.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us on the Your Limitless Leadership Podcast with Jenny and Brent Widman. We hope today's conversation inspired you to think differently about leadership, not just in your career, but in every part of your life. Remember, leadership starts with leading yourself first. It's about taking action, making bold decisions, and showing up with purpose. Now, it's time to take what you've heard today and put it into practice. Whether it's in your business, your community, your family, or your own personal growth, start leading without limits. You have the power to become the leader you're meant to be. Until next time, keep pushing your boundaries and leading with purpose.